I'm Shivani Gupta. I'm obsessed with small to medium businesses growing. As business owners, we take so much risk and we want to make sure it's worth it. I believe one of the best presents you can give yourself as a business owner is to be able to learn how to scale your people, your profit, and your processes. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm Shivani Gupta, and I'm your host. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about coaching employees in the workplace, but more importantly, some of the best practices that are around in terms of being able to do that. So let me just quickly recap. I know for some of you listeners, you're going, I've already got that. That's so important for me. But let me talk about what is the importance of it and what are some of the outcomes we are hoping to achieve as a result of that. So firstly, as a founder or as a leader in a business, you may need one of your employees that needs to improve their performance in the workplace. You know, that's often a way that we want to do that. You may have an employee or a person that needs some guidance in terms of what's actually happening. And that might be guidance around their career. That might be guidance around a particular task or a project that they're doing. We also want to be able to improve sometimes by coaching, improve their people management and be able to, share that. We often want to be able to do that with new employees. We want to be able to do that for a retention strategy. So there's many, many, many reasons why we want to do that, to encourage people in our workplace, to guide them, to strengthen what they already know, to retain them, and to be able to also be able to performance manage when we need to. So I could talk about this topic literally for 4 hours straight without stopping. But what I want to do is I want to talk about some key strategies that you could put into place that would really, really help in terms of being able to really utilize coaching more positively. So, and I wrote a book called Tough Love for Leaders. And I talked about some of these principles in that particular book. If you want to check that out, where I talk about 4 strategies for loving your people. And I know loving is a strong word, but really we do want to love our key people. And 4 for the tough part and how to have those tougher conversations around that. So the first important part of coaching is we want to praise people. So before we get to performance management, before we get to anything, this was my first opening chapter in the book, Tough Love. I talk about the fact that we always want to love before we have the tough conversations first. So we want to congratulate our people on the successes. We want to congratulate them in terms of their strengths and things that they're really doing well. We want to give them positive feedback. There is a saying that's very old, and I think I heard it maybe over 20 years ago, is we want to catch people doing something right. And so when we catch people doing something right, it gives them more confidence. It gives them more ability to be able to manage those expectations. And if we're coaching that employee, we want to be able to let them know very specifically what they're doing really well, how proud you are of them, whether they're going above and beyond, and we want to be able to do that. So we want to build their confidence. We want to build their portfolio. We want to build their bank balance with lots of praise. The second part of coaching is also where we actually want to look at where a particular person in the team might need to improve their performance. They might be going okay, doesn't mean that they're always going terribly, but they might, let's say be going 5 or 6 out of 10, where we really need them to identify what's actually happening and what they need to do. And so one of the things we want to do is we want to specifically focus very deeply. The more detailed the coaching is, the more specific it is, it's so much easier for the person that you are coaching in your team and in the workplace to know what it is that they need to do to be able to fix it. So, get very specific about the fact, if you thought that they've got productivity issues happening. Look, I noticed that, for the tasks I'm giving you, it's taking you a long time to complete them. Can we actually sort of specifically speak about that? Or, look, I noticed that when you're dealing with that particular colleague, I noticed that there seems to be, a fair bit of ego or a fair bit of rebuttal happening here, and I want to talk about that. So the more specific that you get, it is what the person is trying to do the better it is for them to be able to work on it. And then they've got an opportunity to be able to talk to you about that and do that. Sometimes for the people that you're dealing with, it's a very new topic for them. It's not something that they've perhaps ever been coached or even that's even been raised with them. So it's really important that you understand and seek that permission, explain to them that this is what you're seeing, making sure that it's a two-way conversation, and make sure that, that people understand, I guess, that your aim here is not to put them down. Your aim is to get the outcome, to be able to see a better result in this particular area that you need to do. So when you're coaching people, don't just focus on their shortcomings, but also make sure that you're very clear, very detailed in what it is that you're raising, so that it becomes much easier to have that conversation around that. The third way when you're coaching is actually to explain to people what I call context. So context is, giving them that overview, and content is some of the detail. So I've just talked about the content and making it very detailed, but also another way to coach is to actually give them the context and actually talk about that's so important, that for them to be able to perform in their role, which fits into their team, which fits into that division, that fits into that organization, depending on the size of your business, is so crucial, and that's so important that they actually get that right. So we want to be able to frame their improvement or their development in terms of how well they're contributing to the team and contributing to different things. And we also want to talk about the potential rewards of succeeding. We want to be able to talk about promotions or things that will really help motivate them. But we want to be able to remind the people that we are coaching of some of the benefits that they can get from this coaching experience, that you're really there to help, and that there's many outcomes that you wish, not just for the team, but for the individual as well. The next part that I want to talk about is asking the person that you are coaching of their perspective. It's a really great coaching tool when you say, look, I would love to get your perspective on this. I'm seeing this, but I would love to get your perspective on that. Rather than say, well, what's your view? This is what I see. And it almost sounds a bit accusational. You're almost sort of saying to them, hey, I've noticed that, there's some issues happening around one of your goals that you've got. Tell me what's been happening. And that opens it up where they could talk about some of the challenges that they're facing in the workplace and with teams and certain individuals. They might also sometimes share with you what's happening outside that's creating them to perhaps lose that focus. So you want to talk to them about the inside, how they can have awareness of those issues. And you want to also get an understanding and empathy in terms of what it is that they need to do. And then you might then start to work out some possible solutions to help them work through that. Another strategy is to help the barriers to improvement. So often barriers fall under 4 key areas that comes around all the time. The first is time, right? Does the person that you're coaching need the time to be able to develop that, or what amount of time that they need, in terms of being able to do that? The second is training. Is there something that they don't understand? Have they had adequate training? And if they haven't, what is it that they need where somebody more experienced, whether that's you or somebody else, can help them get their skills up in that particular area? So time is one, training is one. The other one is tools. So sometimes the person doesn't have all of the tools that person needs to be able to do their job, and asking them, have they got all the right tools to be able to help them? And if not, what's missing? And, how can we help them do that? And the fourth one is really attitude. So we want to know what motivates them. We want to know, what they can do in terms of improving their attitude if they need to, and to be able to, create to be able to do them. One of the strategies is called the SMART goals within what you want to do. SMART, that acronym has been around for a good, 25, 30 years now. But for those of you that might have come across it, it's that setting some really clear goals when you're coaching to say, hey, let's make it specific, the detail, let's make it measurable so we can see it's gone from X to Y. Let's make it achievable so that it's not something that is, almost impossible. Making sure that it's relevant, And so that people can understand that, and making sure that there's a time frame on it. So you might say, look, this goal needs to be done by 7 days, or what do you think the time frame is? And helping them set those SMART goals as well. Another way to coach them is just to sort of get them to really look at the actions. So you might ask them to generate 5 actions that are going to help them achieve those goals, that are going to help them achieve their KPIs. And again, a really good coach will ask really good questions rather than dive in and try and kind of fix any of that as well. And set a date to follow up when you're coaching. So look, that's fantastic. That's been a really, really great discussion. When's the next time that we can do it if that's not already set up as a regular meeting? So whether it's in the next week or the day or a couple of weeks, and then be able to revise them. So probably the best model that I've seen in coaching is the GROW model by Max Landsberg. And the GROW model talks about the goals, the reality in terms of where we're at, the options we're going to generate, and the willingness. And so that model often covers all of the different things we've been speaking about, but it's so important to identify in the strategies that I've shared, really, what is it that you are coaching them on, getting very clear about that, and utilizing some of those strategies to be able to get to the outcomes and getting to the KPIs. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you got a couple of great ideas that you can implement in terms of coaching people and where to focus. And if you've got any questions, please just shout out. My website is called askshivani.com, and go through the contacts question page and ask any questions that you have. And if you could take a moment to review and rate this podcast, that would be so greatly appreciated. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Shivani Gupta, and you've been listening to the Grow Your Business podcast. I hope you got one idea that you can think about or perhaps even implement straight away in your business. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Ask Shivani. Remember, I call it Ask Shivani, so please send me your questions that I can address in this podcast for you. And I would also so appreciate if you went to the Apple Podcast to rate and review this podcast.